First thing you want to do when you're planting a tree is find the right spot for that tree, so the right plant in the right place. So ergo, you want to plant a sun-loving tree in full sun, or a shade-loving tree in partial shade. So you always have to call 811 before planting a tree. Make sure that they come out and they can mark the utility lines for you, so you don't go ahead and cut through those, because that can be expensive to repair. So when you plant a tree, you need to dig a hole, and you want to dig that hole about twice the width of the root ball of the tree. So depending on that size of tree, you know, dig twice as wide. You never want to go any deeper than that, what the root ball actually is. So if the root ball is this deep, then you only want to dig a hole that deep into the ground. Sometimes if you are in a difficult or heavily compacted area, you might want to plant just a little bit high. When you do plant a tree, make sure that you take all the roots and kind of inspect the roots of the tree before you put it in the hole to make sure there's not circling roots. You might need to cut those roots, tease those roots out. You can also check around the flare of the root of the tree, the root flare that is. You can sometimes see some girdling roots that might need to be cut out at that time. It's a lot easier to do it when it's small than, you know, wait till it's a problem later on down the road. Here we are demonstrating a root flare on a paper bark maple. As you can kind of see, as we kind of take some of this dirt away, the trunk is straight. At the base of the trunk, it does flare out a little bit, hence it's called the root flare. And that is just showing that the roots are coming out. There is no girdling roots, and it is roots coming out to help anchor that tree. After the tree is backfilled, watering the tree in, you want to make sure that you give it enough water to kind of settle that soil around. You really can't overwater that first time, so go ahead and give it a good drink. You want to put, you know, approximately, depending on the size of the tree, if it's like a 10-gallon tree, maybe 10 gallons of water, 20-gallon tree, maybe 20 gallons of water, something like that. You can do that with a hose, or you can measure it out with 5-gallon buckets. You can also add any kind of root starter amendment to that water at that time. Any starter fertilizer can be put in the hole, you know, as you backfill, and water all that in, and then just cover it with a good layer of mulch. Make sure it's not up the trunk. You don't want really more than 2 inches of mulch around the tree, but that will help kind of, you know, keep some of that moisture in there, keep that root ball from drying out while it's trying to get rooted out. After you plant a tree, you do need to usually stake that tree, depending on the size of the tree. If it's a deciduous tree, more than likely it would need to be staked. So staking the tree, you can either use the 1-stake method or the 2-stake method. Make sure that the root ball is not going to tilt once it is staked. The top can move on it, that's fine. But you do want to secure those ties around there. Make sure they're not too tight so that they are rubbing against the trunk of the tree. And those trees usually would need to be staked for maybe a year, so a full growing season, or maybe even 2 full growing seasons.